Hi, folks. My name is Ashley Parker. Some of you may have saw me yesterday. I'm also a peer mentor with Aptiv as well as doing my work for self-employment at Easter Seals. I have my bachelor's degree in social work and I really enjoy giving back to the disability community.
And I'm Nate Hunt, and I am Program Operations Director at Aptiv. So you heard us talk about Aptiv, but one of the things we're here today to talk about is getting to college. And it's really actually separately branded with a whole different website and everything for a very distinct reason, because we don't want individuals to associate us with just one type of service or one type of need that individuals have. So getting to college is really meant to be an option for any individual who experiences challenges navigating what it means for post-secondary education. And we're not just talking about four-year degree. We're talking about what does it mean to get a post-secondary education that helps me advance my employment and, more importantly, my career and my earnings as an adult. And Ashley's here partnering because she has not only been a peer mentor, but she was part of our summer camps this summer that we offered. And so we had 3 different sessions. Did you speak in all 3?
Two.
2 of them. Okay, I couldn't remember. And we had very different individuals participating in those summer camps, just experiencing what it is to be on campus over the summer, and what a college campus looks like, and start to be inquiring and inquisitive about that. Because this is really meant to focus in on too often individuals aren't given the idea or the opportunity to think about college and post-secondary experiences as something that they can pursue after high school, specifically if you have diagnoses of some sort. And this is what this is meant to do, is give everybody that option and start thinking about that. And just to give a little more promotion, as we were talking about Aptiv and getting to college is one of, again, our focuses on really person-centered services at Aptiv. We're really focused in on making sure that we're a person-centered organization. We have the peer mentoring pilot that we've been doing in conjunction with actually the Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disabilities. That's how it started out. We've got assistive technology program that we're doing, and we partner with WisTech for All and can lend out free to the whole state 200 plus items that people can go on and check out whatever they want. In addition to that, we just continue to evolve as an organization and figure out what is the need that individuals have and how can we best support it. And our focus is on how do we support individuals. We're not there to direct individuals. We're here to support individuals. So, anything you want to add, Ashley, beforehand?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. As it says up on screen here, getting to college, assisting and preparing students to explore post-secondary options and achieve their employment and career goals. All right, stated, right? That's what we're focused in on. Give the idea, make it a possibility, because whatever you put your mind to, you can achieve. And don't let people tell you no. Advocate for yourself. That's the most important thing you can do, is advocate for yourself. You want to talk about advocating for yourself quick, Ashley?
So, for me, going to college was a really interesting and slightly difficult experience. I had a lot of people tell me that I would never make it there, that it would be too strenuous for me, and that I would never graduate. Despite what those people said, I navigated the system of getting accommodations and graduated with honors. So anything is possible as long as you set a goal and stick to it.
Ashley, will you just also talk a little bit about like your life right now and advocating for yourself and where you are today and how you live and everything else? Just so the room knows about that. I think that's undersold.
So I am currently living on my own. I just moved into a brand new apartment building, but I've been living on my own since I was 20 years old. I have care providers coming in and out on a daily basis thanks to Medicaid, and they take me pretty much wherever I need to go. I also have my furry companion here. As I mentioned before, I work 2 jobs plus play power soccer, so I'm a pretty busy person in general. But on top of that, I have cerebral palsy along with Crohn's disease.
Thank you, Ashley. And I just want to highlight, like, what do you think has gotten you to where you are today?
My determination and stubbornness and just willingness to keep pushing the boundaries despite people telling me no.
And I want to emphasize that Ashley's never been willing to take no for an answer. She puts her mind to something, she's going to do it and she's going to achieve it. That's why Ashley lives independently, has the support she needs, works her 2 jobs, plays power soccer. It's achievable for everybody. So just want to highlight that and acknowledge, because too often just seeing an individual in a wheelchair, people assume can't do many of those things. How is a person in a wheelchair going to live independently? How is a person in a wheelchair going to go to school, right, Ashley? Like those to college. Those are questions and things that people.
Assistive technology is a big part of that. So knowing what options are out there is only going to benefit you not only during school but in your career as well.
So moving along, one of the questions I have for the audience, and we have for the audience is, why are you at this session and what are you wanting to learn from the session? I put some preemptive things up there of, where do you fit in after high school? Things you need to know about going to college. What are options in Wisconsin? Details about the Getting to College program, and what else? Like, are those fitting with what you're here for? Is there something else you want to know? Shout it out. Raise your hand. Go ahead. Nancy, I'm going to give you a microphone just so that, because it's recorded.
I wanted to stop and share some information here because I have a son who is gloriously autistic and is now 47 years old, and he graduated from the UW-Madison in 2005. And he was the first person they ever knew of with full-blown autism to graduate from the UW-Madison. He has a degree in mathematics. And we did obviously a lot of interesting things to get him there. And I'm here today to kind of share some of those because some of them are out of date, but there still are some things that I think people don't realize are options, which is, I'm sure what Nate and Ashley are going to cover also. So I was kind of volunteered to be a secondary speaker.
We appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to add right now, Nancy? You want to cover something?
Sure. And maybe you can tell me if people are doing this. You probably, I'm sure, are aware of student options?
Yep.
Yeah. My son used student options when he was in high school. He stayed in high school until he was 21. But the last 2 years of his high school, he did not go to any of the regular high school classes. They used, instead, he went into a transition program where because it was on a bus line between his high school and the UW, he rode to the UW every day in the morning. They secured him a position in the school library because he's a mathematician and he memorized the Dewey Decimal System like in an instant. And so he worked there, so he got student money employment. And then he also learned to take the bus there to the college and then back to the high school. That was part of his transition program. And then in the afternoon, they explored different job opportunities. He also had another library job with the local library. And he is now working in the library in downtown Madison, and he he's been there for about 15 years. So the other thing that happened is we always had a team approach to his education. Matthew struggles with communication, but he's actually quite intelligent. And he was in the kind of odd position of having, he could, calculus and trigonometry and geometry and everything like that was very easy for him. He could do all that. He just never knew when spring break was and all the other things that most other kids know. So he needed some kind of support. And we had a team of people that included myself, him, of course, he was basically always there, and his advisor at college for a while. We had an autism consultant for a while, his DVR person, because DVR ended up paying for a couple of years of his college because he submitted a plan to DVR about what he was planning to do after he graduated, and it wasn't being a librarian. But it was reasonable because he had achieved a lot of success in high school. He tested out of the first semester of college calculus. And so he was able to use student options because there was nothing left in the high school that he could take in the math environment. So he was able then to have the high school pay for him to go to the UW to take advanced math classes. And by the time he actually graduated from high school, he had 18 credits of advanced math under his belt from the UW. But while he was there, he never took more than 12 credits a semester because it would have been too much. And we knew that. And after he got out of high school, then he went to the Madison College, used to be Madison Area Technical College, and they had a program there to enable people to get their first 2 years of a 4-year degree, and that's what he did. But because when he was in high school, he was at the UW as a special student, he was guaranteed admission to UW, no matter what else happened. And so he was able to get in there, and he got some grants to help him with some things, like we used grant money to buy a new, faster computer for him because he was doing a lot of math. And then we also had some money for a tutor. When he was a senior, he had a little bit of trouble with the advanced physics. So he had a tutor for that. And I said we had a team approach. One of the people on that team was somebody that we hired from the student job board who was studying, getting a degree in disability support, something like that. And that person became my son's like secretary. And so because he has so much trouble communicating, she went with him to the first class every semester and made sure he got the syllabus and that the people there knew who he was and why he was there, because he looks much more disabled than he is. He is here today, by the way, but he doesn't like talking, so he wouldn't want to be here. But he did have this person then also meet with his professors ahead of time with him to help explain why he was there and get the professors to agree to have a 10-minute session at the beginning of every class that he could explain who he was, because even though he can't spontaneously talk about what he's doing, he can read a speech. And he's been very happy to be able to do that to places. So he would explain who he was, and then we also had some social stories in place to help him understand what things were going. And just one time, somebody asked him, "What's the difference between high school and college?" His answer was, "More buildings."
Thank you so much, Nancy, for talking through all of that, because the things you highlighted are all the details related to what helps somebody access and excel successfully in post-secondary education. The options, all these things, you weren't afraid to ask questions and inquire and to keep digging until you got the answer you felt deserved, right? That Matt deserved. And that's what's important here. That's what this is all about. And that's what our Getting to College program is meant to also do for individuals. When you talked about having to hire, there is a need sometimes to have that assistance that way. There's, one of the things we've come up against with Getting to College is people say, well, my transition coordinators are supposed to do that. Supposed to. That's our key statement, supposed to. But you only get what you get from as strong as a person as they are within the system. And people only know what they know, and they haven't had some of the same experiences anybody else has had. But you are the individual that has the experience, the lived experience, to keep asking questions. And when you don't have answers, feel free to reach out. Reach out to Getting to College. We'll help navigate that and talk about that stuff. And Ashley and I are partnering right now, and I don't know what the future holds of us 100% regarding the next steps. Chris Macy, who was our administrator for this, he's had to resign recently from it. We will continue this path, but he had to resign for his own personal health. So we've got more to figure out, but what I want to focus in on is, again, what Nancy was talking about is Matthew succeeded and achieved all of those things because there was a lot of assistance and inquiry and a team approach. And Getting to College is that team approach as well for individuals. And that's what we're really meant to do. And we continue to see how can we partner, how can we grow. So I know I see familiar faces in the room. I can call on individuals if you're okay with that. But Jet, Connor, Kendall, what are your, what are you really wanting to get out of the session today? I know you guys want to go to school. I've heard that. And I apologize, I don't know your name. Anna, okay. What do you want? Are those things the right things? Is there other things up there? Or did you just come to see Ashley and I? We're pretty famous anyways.
Go to college program help you while you're in college, or is it just getting going?
Both. So we can go through a lot of that stuff. Yeah, Jet, it's meant to, and we can go into that further. I want to talk more about why this is important and stuff, but it is meant to not only help you think about getting to college, but then getting into college. And then while you're in college, successfully complete college. We want to be there the whole gamut, because that need doesn't go away just because you got into college. Nancy talked about that. Her son, Matt, needed ongoing support and a team approach the entire time. So, yeah.
After a couple of years, you want to go back. Does that still stay with you?
So if you're going to school and you've completed some credits and stuff and you've went for a year and then you take a pause and you need to take a pause and can you go back and restart with that? Yeah. It depends on, there's a lot of things that depend on that, Connor. Like if I'm going to all of a sudden go to another school, Carter, sorry, Carter. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. But it depends on if you're trying to go to another school to go back to school, they may not transfer those credits. But if you're going to that same school and those credits and what you're doing still exist, yes, you could start back up with that and finish it.
It also depends on the program because I know when I went to school, I had 5 years to get my master's before I would have to retake some credits for that social work program.
Yeah.
So,
Some programs have a finite end date that you got to complete stuff by because of licensing and other things that go with that. Okay. So it depends on that, but those are questions that a counselor or at the school you're going to should be able to assist you with. But maybe you're having a hard time getting that information across to that counselor, that question, right? Those are things that we're trying to help with. Does that make sense, Carter? So you have to be willing to ask those questions just like you are today. It's the only way you're going to achieve what you want for that higher career and education goal that you have. And Carter, correct me if I'm wrong, welding is what you wanted to go to school for, right? At Western, if I remember correctly. Jet, what was your desire?
Dog training.
Dog training. So yeah, specific credentialing, right? All things achievable. Why not? And then that might lead to something else that you want to do. Don't let it be the end, right? Why should that be the end of it? What if something else is of interest to you? Right? I'm not in the same job I started in when I started working because I'd be delivering newspapers if I was doing that still. And I don't know that they have newspaper delivery people anymore. Or let's say if I did my second job, I would be working in a music store in a mall that doesn't exist anymore either because music is digital. So I'd be out of a job still. And my third job would be doing graphic design for a newspaper, which is all overseas now for that newspaper that I work with. So that wouldn't be there. But I kept advancing what I wanted to do. I kept learning and doing different things. So my career path took me down finishing high school, right, first, and graduating and going to Western for graphic design, and then moving from there to full-time employment in graphic design, and then deciding I want to go back to school and learn marketing and management at Viterbo, a 4-year degree. And then I graduated from there and worked for the YMCA for 10 years and decided I wanted to do something different and work for Aptiv because the people that we serve, I was passionate about helping individuals be supported. And then I changed my role within there even. I moved from marketing communications to director of program operations. And I continue to learn and take on new things. Ashley, how about your?
sometimes I think Nate takes on a little too much. He's a very busy man. But no, I'm not in the same job that I started out with either. Just in the past 5 years, I've probably had 3 different employers because some people are not disability friendly, even though they say they are. So when you're going through that interview process, you really need to be able to advocate for yourself there too, or just have someone with you that understand what you're trying to say and can be that middleman.
Yeah, absolutely, Ashley. Thank you for sharing. So I think I know the majority of the ages in our room here today, but I just want to say, is there anybody 14 to 18 or under 14 in the room right now? 18? 18? Okay. So 18 to 21 and still in school. Okay. 18 to 21 not in school. Over 21. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And the reason I ask that question is because this, just because you're over 21 doesn't mean you stop learning. And just because you aren't 18 and graduated yet doesn't mean you shouldn't be thinking about college. My biggest beef with disability world, let's just say, and is when somebody receives a diagnosis that starts to be a limitation on an individual. And from the get-go, it should always be thought of, well, what do we do? How do we go around this, right? How do we move beyond that? That's the focus of what we want. And so I continue to advocate for how does in school conversations about getting to college and post-secondary experience happen in elementary school for students? Because legally it's supposed to start happening at age 14. That's why I have these ages up there, right? So legally it's supposed to start happening because there's transition programming that's supposed to happen at 14. But what if we got ahead of that curve? What if we had people talking about earlier? How much more successful would individuals be? And the reason I'm talking about this stuff is I'm going to skip over a couple slides here. Gaps that exist. So there's a 40% employment gap for individuals with disabilities. Individuals with disabilities are 2 times more likely to be unemployed, and a third of students with disabilities enroll in post-secondary education. What about the other 2/3? 36% of students of Wisconsin students with disabilities want, and that's individuals with an IEP. This is really going off of, because this is DPI, Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction information, talking about that 36% of those students wanted to go to post-secondary education, but didn't. Why wasn't that realized for them? Because we failed them. The system failed them. Our supports failed them. So who has to hold the system accountable? You. Right, Ashley?
Yes.
What would have where do you think you would be if you took no for an answer?
I would probably be a couch potato, to be perfectly honest. But I've never been that type of person. If someone tells me no, I'm like, watch me. I'm gonna get it done one way or another. So
And that includes parents,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And family, friends,
yeah.
anybody that doubts you. You gotta say, I'm gonna prove you wrong. And I'm here to prove you wrong, and I'm going to succeed in it. You want to use it as positive, right? That's the other thing, is putting it all towards positive things, positive growth.
You need to find your community and support system that will be positive for you. And sometimes, unfortunately, that's not the people we deal with on a daily basis. If my parents hadn't chosen to send me to Easter Seals, Wisconsin camp, I would not be the individual that I am today, because I was able to work with a lot of older individuals who showed me the proper path forward. And that's why I really believe that mentoring programs are one of the most important things.
Yeah. What Ashley's talking about again is, so one of her roles is a mentor, and that's not even something that's covered in the adult waiver right now. That's a whole nother thing for us to deal with and trying to get into, but it is in children's long-term support. So when individuals are under 18, it's really important to say, I want to do peer mentoring if I'm attached to that funding source and stuff. And again, when you have questions, reach out, because nobody has all the answers, but we're a support that tries to and digs in if we don't have the answers. What were you going to say, Ashley?
No.
Okay. So just in the room here, what I wanted to talk about, and even Nancy can contribute to this, is, when were you asked about what you wanted to be when you grow up? When did that start?
I don't remember exactly what it was, but I know it had to be something with helping people. That's exactly what it did.
Good, Kendall. Thank you for sharing that. The question is, like, Carter, Jet, when did individuals start asking you what you want to be when you grow up? Third grade? Okay. Was that in school that started because of school? Teachers asking you that? Did your families ask you that? Okay, good. And when was or has going to college been talked about by your support network? And high school. Okay. Mid-high school?
When my son was in high school at the beginning, we had not been able to understand his math homework since he was in the 5th grade. And so we didn't know how much he really knew. And all of a sudden we get called in by his 2 math teachers in high school. They wanted to have a conference. And that makes you kind of cringe because usually that's bad news. But in this case, it wasn't. They said he had taken the American high school mathematics exam, because he was also in their math club. And they said he got 7th highest score in Wisconsin on that test that year. And they said, you have to send this young man to college, which again was like, what? We were struggling just to make sure he could live on his own. We weren't really thinking about him going to a 4-year school, but then all of a sudden we had to. And so he wasn't thinking about it. He was just trying to get through every day and accomplish.
Yeah.
To go someplace like that, even if you're not thinking about it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Jet, you were going to say something too, I think. When was or has going to college been talked about by your support network? When did that start for you? Did you initiate it, or did somebody talk about it for you? You initiated. Awesome. That's advocating. But one of the things that I think I want to highlight too is, Kendall talked about helping individuals, and that's what she's doing now. Nancy talked about math and Matt being interested in math. What are those things that are of interest to you? How do Jet, you talk about dog training, or pet training. You're interested in that. Carter's interested in welding. We'll use that as an example. Ashley, I think you had already said, I've learned from you that, again, social work was important to you. You wanted to.
Yeah, that passion started at age 16 because as I was growing up, I unfortunately had more social workers that put up boundaries rather than help me take them down. And I'm like, I need to be a part of the system to help change it.
Yeah. And part of that is, you said more support networks or social workers that put up boundaries than
Take them down.
took them down. So what did you do? Did you keep that same social worker, or did you ask for a different one all the time?
I unfortunately didn't have much of a choice but to keep the social workers that I had. However, my mom and I are both very stubborn, so my mom kept calling people and finding workarounds for different things.
So, and I think that's important, is that last bullet up there says, what is your role in leading this? Your role is to advocate for yourself, or find individuals who will help you advocate for yourself, and keep looking for those individuals. Don't give up. And go ahead.
one of my struggles was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What are my options, right? And I think that's that other piece of it is people don't know what they don't know. So how can you pick what you want to be? So my son is 12 too, so that's where it comes in. It's like, you know, I'll ask him a question and he's like, I don't know. So I tried to shift that into like, well, what are your interests, right? To help them explore. I was I obtained my disability at the age of 16. So I was just starting to think about college as an able-bodied individual. And then my life shifted. And then I was thinking about surviving, right? And then I went back to school my junior year. Or sorry, I went back to school. So I was injured my junior year. I went back to school for my senior year. And again, like college wasn't a big discussion anymore for my life, right? It was like that one occasion of being injured and becoming a person with a disability shifted that discussion even for me. It was more like, well, what's good to do now? Not, do you still want to go to college? And so that's the other piece is like, you know, you said finding those supports. And the other thing I want to mention, you know, you talked about parents and, you know, things, society, I'd like to add to that list, but also sometimes professors.
Mhm.
Professors, the very first day of my class, where he asked me why I wasn't sitting with the rest of them. I didn't have access to sit with the rest of them, right? And that shifted my relationship with him to the point where I dropped his class. And that was my advocacy, right? I said, I don't need to be in this space anymore. And being able to talk to my advisor, know that it was a prerequisite class, but there was another way to take that because there was already that trust that had been broken down.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that information. All just awesome points for everybody to hear in the room because that's what it's all about. You had to advocate, you had to, you know, and even going back to thinking about that one professor, what does an access center or disability services center within the higher education world also assist with that? Because that's a resource to help you navigate that with that professor as well. Go ahead, Nancy.
Gave us trouble, so that and gave my son trouble, and it was ironic because if the professor that caused him the most problem was the only professor he had who also was disabled. And that person had been in a car accident and sustained with serious physical injuries, but didn't have to deal with something else, like autism. So he just had no sympathy, you know, if I can do this, you can, even though it's totally different situation.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. The point of all of this is one, you do need to advocate for yourself and think about what your interests are. If you don't know, I also have a 16-year-old who I keep asking the question of, what do you want to do? This is my cousin and her daughter over here. So they know my family as well. And just that, like, what do you want to do? I don't know. I'm like, well, we got to figure something out here. So what are we going to do? Like, what are your interests? We know a lot of people. We can set you up with a lot of opportunities to shadow people, figure things out. What are you curious about even? Let's have a conversation there first. But as individuals, think about what am I curious about and why do I want to pursue that? So
But I'm a provider with both CLTS and long-term care. And my business model is to help you advocate. You don't know how to advocate and give you the tools. So if you're in the, I don't know what my role is in leading this. If you're in the, I know what my role is, but I don't know how to do it because it's intimidating, or I don't know the right words, or I don't know how to ask for help from whom, I'm your girl. So if you are interested in that, let me know afterwards. But this is all, I'm here to hear from the voices on what's needed and how I can better support to others that are truly walking the path.
thank you. Thank you for speaking up. And if you'll just pass along your contact information to Ashley and I as well, because it's always beneficial to pass some of that stuff along too. So we appreciate that. So getting to college. Like if everybody was here to really learn about getting to college program that Aptiv is doing, we can get into that. But I really want to focus in on all the pieces before that, which is what getting to college is meant to help with. It's the realization of that I can achieve what I want. I'm not going to let somebody tell me no. And I really want all of you to help be advocates amongst individuals that you know and your teachers and others of talking about how do we start talking about this earlier? How do we start in elementary school? How do we help people realize this, individuals specifically with intellectual developmental disability? Think about this earlier in life because it should be an option. There's a lot of options related to post-secondary experiences for individuals with any learning challenge of any sort to succeed, to get the career that you want, to have higher earning pay. Okay.
And they told me when I came to the office, why are you here? We don't do anything for people until they're 21. And he said to me, the only advice I give you is to make sure he had a job as soon as possible. So that he learns how to report to somebody else, because there's a huge difference between going to school where you are paying somebody to teach you and being in a job where you are being paid to solve someone else's problem. And that's a huge difference a lot of people don't get.
Thank you, Nancy, for sharing that. I'm just checking time here, making sure we're on time. So, getting to college, the mission and vision, really to assist and prepare students again to explore post-secondary options. We, as you can hear me already talking about that, I don't need to read it, but it is the imagining a world where every individual values continuing education and feels like it's an option for them. I already talked about this. This is why we're doing this, is because these gaps exist. When 40% of individuals with disabilities aren't working, how can we help with that? Because work is how I live independently. If I don't have a job, I don't have a home, I don't buy groceries, where do I go, right? Though that's really important. That unemployment rate fits right back into that other one. I don't think I need to talk any more about that, right? Enrollment gap, again, 1/3 of students with disabilities enroll in post-secondary education. 2/3 don't. Well, that means either 2/3 of people back to the employment and unemployment gap aren't working, or they get the first job and they're stuck in that entry level job. And how do they move beyond that entry level job? Maybe that entry level job is the right job. That's what everybody has to decide. I'm not saying that that's the wrong thing either. I apologize if that came across that way. But you want to find what's right for you. And what do you want and what do you want to achieve?
I think what Nate's trying to say is you don't want to let anybody else put limitations on your life and what you want to do with it. Because a lot of us as disabled individuals get plunked into a job and they go, there you go, you're working now. We don't have to do any more for you.
Thank you for saying that transition. So I'm an active speech leader, and one of my roles is I teach self-advocacy to youth, trying to help them find these words that they have. And I find in my program in working with DVR that sometimes, like I said, DVR places them in this job. And I have some that are amazing, and they talk to the person. What do you want? What type of work are you looking for? I have students placed with that up. You really thrive with. And then I've had other students that are placed at Culver's, which is okay. I've had one student that loved it, but I had one student that I specifically did not want a fast food job. That's not what I'm looking for. This is not what I want for my future. But like you said, they weren't given that voice. They weren't allowed to make those choices. So when people are trying to make those choices for you, know that you can push back, right? And there's a way to do it, right? But that it is your choice. there's something that people say nothing about this without us, right? And so if decisions are being made about us, it needs to be with us. We need to have a say in them.
Absolutely. And
Not to bash DVR because they are a great funding source, or they can be if you're willing to navigate all their hoops. But when I started working with them, I was 16. So I was one of the individuals that got to start my services at a really early age, unlike some people. However, they denied me any help for college for the first year and a half. And my parents made too much money for me to qualify for any grants at that time. So I had a lot of student loans and things that I had to get because I couldn't get any other funding at that time. So if you're able to apply for scholarships, do so, or have somebody help you, because it's only going to benefit you in the long run.
I think to go off of it's not just DVR, right? Like everything is meant to help support. The systems are here to really help support. The problem is sometimes we as individuals put too much power in those people and make it seem like they're telling us what we have to do. And that's not what that support is meant to be. That support is meant to be there to listen to us and what we want. And how do they help us achieve it? And so I have an example of an individual who is placed in a job, hate the word placed, because nobody should be placed anywhere. Individuals should obtain the job and be hired at the job that they want, right? So individual didn't like the job. Individual was self-sabotaging the job. But nobody was addressing that aspect of it. Why is this happening? Oh, that person's just being a pill, was the terminology used. No, that person's trying to communicate something to you. Behavior is communication. That person is trying to communicate that I don't like this job. I want a different job. But then we heard the statement, you should be happy with the job you have. And that's not what you should be happy with. You can appreciate your job. You need to go about it the right way, be respectful, because if you terminate that job, it makes it harder to be hired somewhere else because you have to have a reference, but means that you should be able to pursue other options while you're still in that current job. Don't burn bridges, but use that as an acceleration to your next level. So anything else you want to say, Ashley? Okay. Thanks for the coffee. So up here on screen, I also want to point out, this is Colin. He participated in our summer program this summer. And he's at UWL in the school store. And this was, again, his first experience thinking about post-secondary education as a student. And he just graduated. And he's talking about what do I want? What do I want to achieve? And it's giving him more opportunities. I'll skip over that. That's just more data there of, well, actually, I'll touch on it, is without a college degree, again, there's workforce participation and employment gap, again, 42%, and with a college degree, 3%. So if you have a college degree, you're more likely not to have an employment gap, right? You've went to school, you've obtained skills, and you can use those skills in other areas. And then 84% more are having higher wages because of that when they're pursuing that. So I'm just going to go through is our values and core beliefs. Again, our post-secondary is for everyone. We want to remove barriers for everybody. Getting to college supports everybody, no specific program or career tracks. We're one unique institute or program that isn't tied to a higher education institution. There are other programs that are tied to higher education institutions, all great things. But we're here to say, you don't have to just go to this program for individuals with an intellectual developmental disability and a post-secondary education. How do you pursue using your local technical college, a four-year degree program? How do you get a certificate? How do you get an apprenticeship? All things that you can do, associate degree, anybody can achieve it with the right supports. So who's a good fit? Anybody with an IEP, 504 plan, challenges in high school environment, first generation college students, learning differences. And we really do focus on 14 to 24, but doesn't mean we can't have questions and reach out in advance of that. And I want to again highlight, like, here's 3 individuals at Viterbo University in La Crosse. So we visited all 3 campuses this last summer, and individuals were getting to see what that campus was like. Here's some more individuals. They're shooting basketball in the student union on that lower photo. That's Viterbo campus again, walking through, and youth that was just, I think he was 13 and exploring that program, and talking with a staff at Aptiv that was part of that day. So things that make us different again is we're only focused on post-secondary as the way to build a meaningful career. We want students to gain that experience by being included in post-secondary education. We tailor our programming to what are your needs, and we focus on that self-advocacy. Types of post-secondary education that I was just covering: 4-year degree universities, community colleges, technical colleges, trade vocational schools, apprenticeships, all things that are open to anybody in this room and anybody at this conference today. Just because we have a diagnosis doesn't mean we shouldn't qualify for those things or be able to participate in them, okay? Our 3 distinct tracks is college and career advising services. What does it mean to get to where I want to go? Pre-college readiness and career exploration, pre-college camps that I was talking about, and then that college success and campus integration services. Here, these individuals are on here talking about to the Access Center director, Andrew Ives at UWL, and learning about what accommodations means. Because part of getting to college program is helping individuals know what accommodations I need to achieve and ask for every semester for every class.
So when you enter into college, you are supposed to have a written document that lists out all of your accommodations so that you can show it to your teachers. But first, you need to go to disability services or whatever that office may be called for your college and get that plan set up with them. And my university had me meet with each of the teachers on an individual basis to discuss my accommodations and what that would look like in that particular class.
And Ashley, something that I think is important to note is the IEP and 504 plan or whatever documentation you have from high school doesn't just automatically continue when you go to college.
Right.
You have to ask for that. It has to be supplied. You have to do it.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise, you're just going to sit there and struggle way more than you should.
So when you're making a choice on where you want to go, the first place you want to go to is the disability service or access center. They're called a variety of different names, and interview them. Ask them how they're going to help you. That's what you want to do. But that's also things that we're trying to do at Getting to College through this program. Anything else you want? Go ahead.
For my job, fair enough. But we had because there were so many people on the autism spectrum coming into the technical colleges at that time, that they wanted some kind of advice for both the teachers, professors, and the guidance counselors and the disability office about what are best practices for people who are looking for education but have a disability. So it's not just people with autism, but anybody that's got disability, especially one that's not visible, is to have some kind of letter of introduction that they can share with people about what their issues are, what the person is likely to see, and what they should do about it if there's a problem. That makes you look like a professional student who's somebody who's really thinking about how they can make the classroom the best experience for both the teacher and the student. And also, if there's any question about why things are happening the way they are, having written stuff up front is a good way to make sure people don't think you're just making it up on the fly. So that's something that our team recommended is, and you don't have to share it with everybody if you think it's a problem, but if you have a written thing that kind of explains yourself, just like you would in a job interview, that is helpful.
Thank you, Nancy. Ashley, did you have, I thought you maybe had a comment.
I was just going to mention something about my experience, and I apologize for all the coughing, folks. I'm still getting over a respiratory issue. So when I first entered college, my disability services department was coming under new management at the university, and I went to them and explained what I needed, and they're like, "Oh, we don't offer any of that." And I'm like, "Well, I'm pretty sure you have to. Like, it's the law." So I went above their head, and I'm like, "Is this their true what they're telling me?" And that person's like, "No." But to be on the safe side, if you have the capability to bring your own people into the university for a bit until we can get stuff in place, then do so. But I was also able to develop relationships with other students in my classes that were willing to be note takers for me.
That's a key thing I think that we should highlight is relationship building, right? That is what it's about. Conversations, relationship building. It's what makes things successful. So just going over again, when we talk about the 3 different tracks for getting to college and career advising, connecting ages 14 to 24 to post-secondary education, we really are about exploring those career options, assisting with admission requirements, help individuals and families navigate the application process, help families understand available funding options. And I want to talk a little bit about what that looks like for getting to college too. We are in first year, I'll say, still of our program launch of this. And so we're still working on what braided funding looks like. Self-pay, private pay, as well as what are the options for IRIS, our MCOs, DVR to be a part of that. But to make it accessible, we are doing income-based fee for this because we believe very strongly as an organization in making that an option. So it's income-based. We've applied for some grants. We've got those things. Those are subsidizing what we're doing with that. But we want to, again, help connect individuals and families to college options in their area, prepare future students for successful transition into their academic journey. And one of the things I want to, I'll get into the next slide here, is then we go into that pre-college readiness and career exploration. So we have 3 one-week summer camps. Those may change how we do it. It's really dependent on what people are interested and want. Doing career exploration, age-tailored workshops, different learning, prioritizing self-determination and self-advocacy as part of that. And then the next thing we have that's all a part of this is what are the college success and campus integration. So once you've gotten in and we're working through what it means to get into college, now what does success look like on school? Do you want assistance with peer navigators? Getting to college is going to reach out onto on campus and hire somebody that will assist you with fitting into the college life. Maybe developing those relationships is a huge barrier because of a disability. I'm shy. I don't want to talk. My wheelchair causes people not to talk to me, all different types of things, right? Ashley, you've had some of those experiences.
Uh-huh.
Study mentors, assisting with coursework, and Res Hall peer mentors. So we will be doing that no matter what college you choose to go to. We will help you through that and work through that. So when we talk about summer camps, we're looking at 2026. We don't have our dates finalized yet, but we call them Dream Big, My Path, and College Ready. So I'm beginning to think about college. I'm prepared to apply for college, or I want to apply for college, and I want to get to getting prepared to apply, or I'm ready for college, I'm enrolled, but I want to experience it before I move on. We did not have overnight stays this last year. Nobody wanted to, but we were set up with UWL to have on-campus stays in their res hall, actually. And so just kind of bringing it to a close here is when we've done our job, we want students to feel empowered that they are asking for what they need. At any time with our services, you don't need it, we no longer need to provide them, right? It's not sign up with us and we're here for your life. That's not the goal of what services are. It is about helping you achieve what you want and setting you on your way and setting you free. So Chris's information is up there. If you still email all that and call, it's pretty fresh that he just resigned. So if you call and do the emails and stuff, it still gets to me. I'm still answering those things. Our website, LinkedIn, Facebook, all active, and we'll be moving forward. What were you going to say, Ashley?
Nothing. I was just moving my hand.
Okay. Sorry. Any questions from the group? We can operate statewide, yes. So we can do virtual. Travel wise, like most of what we can do is virtual, but could be virtual, but we can do travel as well. So we have other locations for Aptiv that we provide services in Janesville, Black River Falls. We provide our assistive technology statewide. We have behavior services that we provide statewide, so we're used to that. And I always look to partner. So I'm looking at Nancy and what was your name? Pam. And then I got to connect with, I didn't catch her name either. Just connecting because I think the more we partner, the better off the individuals we are all supporting are going to be. Go ahead. You had a question? Yeah. No. Nope. Yeah. So reach out. I'm going to go back to here. Reach out through that. I'll also give you, I might not have any of my business cards with today, but I have probably lots of the getting to college ones, and I can pass those out to everybody too. Or maybe I don't have any of them. Well, I was presenting somewhere else and I was wondering if I'll find them here in a minute. But anyways, yes, we are willing to have conversations and talk about that stuff. It's what we're meant to do.
and they did get someone who was able to relate to her, helped her get enrolled in school, helped her start her first classes, and then that person took a different job, and they had not done anything to let the mom know what to do next, and the whole thing has fallen apart because there was no continuity. Is that, would you be able to help somebody hire someone, you know, with like Iris funding, to help them get through college so that they wouldn't like just quit and go somewhere else?
Yeah, Nancy, I think like, so one of the roles that we have is peer mentoring and hiring individuals that could help through that stuff. That's the navigator / peer mentoring, as we talk through on the one screen back here, are things that can help connect to that and stuff. And we're always open for a conversation, because again, when we go back to here, we are about hiring individuals on those campuses and finding individuals, because we know there's individuals that are willing to do that work. Kendall said, I want to be in a helping profession, right? There's individuals there to support individuals. We just have to find the right people to help navigate that. Anything else? Go ahead, Carter. Great question. World domination? Sure, we'll go world domination. Yeah. Yeah, every location is going to look different. Funding will look different in every state and every area, but we're not letting that be the limits. We are focused primarily right now. We've been focusing on Wisconsin, but we've said if somebody wants to go to school, Chris, who was part of this, his daughter went to school to the University of Vermont. So he had experience of my daughter who has autism. I will share that. His daughter had autism, late diagnosis as a adult female, has navigated all these supports. That's why he was in the job, because he navigated that. But she still was needing supports at the University of Vermont to succeed, actually. Yeah, well, because we're a year in right now, and we haven't had anybody ask us for outside of it, but we would be willing to figure that out and have that conversation.
They did better in a foreign country because anything weird that they did was just written off as American.
That's an interesting. You get a forgiveness card for being American abroad and stuff, and I can see that.
So I have a little bit of a funny story regarding that. I have an aunt who's Filipino, and so I went over there with a bunch of my family members for the wedding. And over there, people with disabilities don't go outside of their homes. It's a third world country. So me traveling around the streets of this country almost caused a car accident because people were busy staring at me. And people were actually a lot kinder to me than they are in the US.